Good afternoon, Cherries fans, and welcome to this latest preview here at the Cherries in all departments. Of course, we was beaten by Crystal Palace in the last game of 2022, a year which has been pretty successful for the club. Of course, promotion to the Premier League after that game against Nottingham Forest, that 1-0 win, and also, of course, the takeover. There has been some dips as well. Of course, nobody needs to remind us about that 9-0 defeat against Liverpool and the sacking of Scott Parker that followed that. But by by all, 2022 wasn't too bad on the pitch and also in the boardroom as well. Now, before I do welcome on my special guest for this preview against Manchester United, an informed side in the league, here's a little bit about our sponsors, Dental on the Banks. To find out what they can do for you, visit dentalonthebanks.co.uk. So, like I say, Manchester United, one of the form teams in the league at the moment. And under Erik Ten Hag, if you look after that Piers Morgan interview, their form has been very, very good. So, yeah, a perfect place to go, really, to get back onto winning ways. Don't you think? So, to preview the first game of 2023, it is a pleasure to welcome back onto the show Maisy from the channel Devils United. Good afternoon, Maisy. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you, Craig?
Yeah, very well, and a happy new year to you as well.
What better way than to do a preview first thing after New Year?
Exactly, exactly. So, of course, Manchester United are a team who are in very, very good form,
Mhm,
and we travel up to Old Trafford. It's
mhm.
been in the past a ground that we've got some results at, but this is a very different Manchester United as to what we've played before. How has Erik Ten Hag actually changed the team?
Um, First of all, I think that he has improved us defensively because over the years, when you look at Mourinho, when you look at Ole, they've choose to favour the attacking kind of play more than the defensive play. You look at Rashford was on a terrific form but till last season. You bought players like Edinson Cavani, so you could see that the attack is always favoured. But I love attacking football. But the problem is you can play a brilliant attacking football, but if you don't have a good defence, you might as well just kiss league titles goodbye. You might as well kiss trophies goodbye because, as I always say, is you can win points attacking football, but
Mhm.
it is the defense that always wins you trophies. That's what I've always said. And knowing I think the first two games there was a bit of a write off with Ten Hag, but I
Yeah.
think it was one of them where he needed to know what his preferred starting 11 is. Because if you looked at that and Ollie's, it was still the exact same. they still had Maguire in it, still had Ronaldo in it, still had Scott and Fred in it. So we knew there that it was a very near enough unchanged starting 11, and once we got battered by Brentford, Ten Hag was not happy, and that's understandable. He's not gonna be happy. He made, I think, we only ran a small amount a bit, so like instead of having a day's break, he made all the players go into training and run the difference between us and Brentford in the training. And then when it comes to Liverpool, it was our first win against Liverpool in the league since 2018. And we was all happy about that. You would be, but and then it just went from there, to be honest, because he made some massive changes. Maguire and Ronaldo was both dropped, and I think that was signs of he isn't messing around, because I think it says a lot when you're dropping names like Ronaldo in that starting 11. Christian Eriksen, he took Bruno off the corners and set pieces, given to Eriksen. Eriksen's now on 5 assists, which is great. So we've barely conceded any goals since. In total, we've only conceded we've conceded 20 goals, which is less than Tottenham, only one more than Liverpool, who has apparently got one of the best defences in the league. And we've actually only conceded 4 more than Manchester City, and we got hammered against Brentford. So that really speaks about other people's defences this season and how much ours has improved. Because if you looked at last season, we would have been on a minus goal record. So, minus record. But I think the only thing is that our attacking play hasn't been as good as it used to be in the years, but I'm happy with, as long as we get points, as long as we aim for the top 4, we get a trophy behind us, because we haven't had a trophy since that Europa League in 2017. I'm happy because it's signs of improvement compared to the following years, and it's good to see some players back with Rashford back on great form. It's good to see a world-class defensive midfielder, which we haven't had since Michael Carrick, of Casemiro. It's good to see an actual left-footed defender of Lisandro Martínez. We haven't even had a left-footed centre-back in many, many years. We've had to have right-footed players playing on the left, and that does not work either. I couldn't fault the majority of Ten Hag signings. I think they've been great. Plus, as well, rising stars again Garnacho, and Ten Hag has taken over the academy now. It's been reported, because he wants to manage all the games. He wants to manage the starting 11, so he can decide and break in the players gently into the first team, because it hasn't worked in the past.
Let's talk about, of course, a man that has left Manchester United fairly recently. We've all seen this interview with Piers Morgan. And when he was signed by Alex Ferguson all those years ago, he hit the ground running. He turned into one of the best players in the world, without a shadow of a doubt. And, of course, he went away, went to Real Madrid, went to Juventus, come back. And it seems like since he's left the club and after this interview, things have picked up. How much of a disruptive influence was he? And also, secondly, do you think he has harmed his reputation at Manchester United for good now?
I think when he first re-signed for Man United, we was all happy, because we've always heard it over the years. Cristiano Ronaldo wants to come back to Manchester United, and when we seen it actually happen, as Manchester United fans, was like, "Oh, finally he's come back home. He stuck to his word. We're buzzing," kind of thing. I think in the first season it was very disruptive in general. So we heard loads of reports of people leaking stuff from the dressing room. Rumours it was a postman, Dean Henderson. How true it is, I don't have a clue, but he was on good form, Ronaldo, but nobody else was. And people, even though he was on good form, people looked at that and gone, "Wait a minute, you had Edinson Cavani, He had Antony, you had Marcus Rashford, Bruno Fernandes, in total scored nearly 40 goals last season.
Yeah.
And now they're barely scraping past 10. Why is that? And people looked at things like that, and I looked at things, and people thought it was Ronaldo, and I thought, nah, it's just that the team hasn't done so well to get, because I thought, well, it'd been, there was Ollie, there was Ralph, there was Michael Carrick as the interim, so it was probably nothing. It was just probably, it was a write-off season, we'll go again next season. But then what done it was the pre-season for me. He didn't turn up. He obviously said in the Piers Morgan interview it was due to his baby girl in hospital, and it is awful if it is true that Manchester United did behave that way. Then I am truly appalled. But it did come out further that whilst his baby was in hospital, his girlfriend was still going to concerts every single night during that time, and I think United fans were twigging onto that and saying, okay, I'm sorry your baby's in hospital, but why is your girlfriend still going out every night? You wouldn't
Yeah.
do that if your baby is in hospital. You'd be wanting to be at her bedside every single day. I went to the Rayo Vallecano game, Rayo Vallecano game, sorry, and he played the first half, but he had his head down the entire game, and I was fuming because that was the first time I went to Old Trafford in years. So when it's your first time, you want to see, and you want to see Ronaldo, and you see him sulking, literally in the pitch. I was so livid. And especially after he's been flirting with Champions League clubs the entire summer, which another thing you wouldn't do if you've got so much family crisis going on as well. I was fuming and I said, I'm done with Ronaldo here. Like, if he wants to behave like this, he wants to walk off, then I'm not having it. Ten Hag said a few players done it, and he's given them a warning. If they do it again, there will be consequences, and he said that very openly and clear. After the game, Ronaldo was benched. He played 4 minutes against Liverpool. He didn't play, and then for Spurs, Ten Hag wanted him in the last 3 minutes, and then Ronaldo refused to come on the pitch. And that's when a lot of United fans looked at him and gone, that was for us, that was probably our best performance of the season. Not because of you look at the scoreline and go, we've absolutely hammered Spurs. It was just the way we played. That was our best performance all season. Was very dominant. We barely give Spurs any rest, and if he couldn't see that, what does that really say as a player, that he isn't supportive of our all the other players around him, especially when we've been supportive of him when he scored his 700th goal. Where we was, as I know he was born in Sporting, but he was made in Manchester, as we always say.
Yeah.
That's how we have always said it. And I think if you want to disrespect your club like that, then go. That's what we said, go. Ten Hag gave him that consequence. I don't think he played him, but he gave him the captaincy, which rattled a lot of United fans. Like, why are you doing that? But only a few weeks later, he refused to come to training because of the World Cup, and then that Piers Morgan interview got leaked. I think we was happy what he said about the Glazers, because a day later they offered they come out and said they wanted to sell the club, so we was all happy.
Yeah.
But we didn't like how the manager was thrown under the bus, especially knowing that he's had great performances since the Liverpool game, and he didn't deserve that one bit. He's only been in the job less than 6 months at that point, and having to deal with Cristiano Ronaldo's coming out, Dean Henderson's interview where Nottingham Forest as well. He's had a few issues to deal with, and I think when I watched the interview properly, people probably will disagree, but I feel like Piers Morgan was getting him to say some of the things with what, like, when he was like, oh, so this and this, and then Ronaldo go, yeah. It was kind of like it was kind of like he was just agreeing with what Piers is saying, but he made himself look like an idiot in that interview, because considering he said never go to a Saudi Arabia club. But a lot of, even the case, not a lot of United fans were still sticking up for him because of his baby. and they were saying if he doesn't get along with Ten Hag is disrespectful. He's done that to the goat and all that, but he's clearly shown why Ten Hag dropped him,
Yeah.
and he has shown that he doesn't respect anyone because he didn't do it in the World Cup. He was disrespectful to his manager then in public, and he refused to clap when Ramos got his first goal. So that just shows what he said in his interview, that the younger players don't respect him, Ten Hag don't respect him, who was Ralph. That just shows the kind of ego the man has. And I think as a fan base, overall fan base, because I would say the whole fan base, but we've still got some Ronaldo fanboys in here. I would say about 95% of the fan base is very happy Ronaldo has left now, and we have improved massively since he's left. So I think that just shows he was a negative influence, and it probably, if I was a Man United player, I would have felt disrupted after
Yeah.
that interview. But I think and even Bruno got questioned for it, and I don't think it's right. Other players, even Varane got questioned, and I don't think it's right that players should get questioned over the interview. He's put them in a very awful spot. So, from what I've heard, Bruno was supposed to be frosty with him. How true it is, you don't know, but I think Man United players reacted very well since the break, and we haven't lost since. So that's main things, really.
And I think that was the big thing for me. It was that why did he even do that interview in the first place at the time when he did it? And what he really should have done was just take it to the manager. If he was unhappy about something, take it to the manager and, go from there.
Yeah, I agree. And that was actually one of Ten Hag's first rules when he first come to Man United. If you have a problem, you come to
Mhm.
me. Don't come to your agent or don't come to anyone else. You come to me and I will
Mm.
sort it. That was one of his, because I think he had like 10 commandments or something when he first joined Man United. It was
Yeah.
very weird. Like, it was like, you can't eat your own personalised food. I will create your food. It was just them kind of things. But one of them was the agent talking, and Ten Hag even said is, Ronaldo never come up to me and told me how he felt. He
Mhm.
told me he was fine. So I had no clue he felt like this. And
Yeah.
another thing is, he got recently questioned as well, Ten Hag, regarding Ronaldo, and he said, that's the past. I don't want to talk about the past. I'm talking about the
Mhm.
present and the future. And I think that's a good response to Ronaldo's interview as well.
Of course, Alex Ferguson was the man that brought him to the club, you know,
Mhm.
and it might be a difficult question to answer, but what do you think Sir Alex Ferguson would be saying to Cristiano Ronaldo now following that interview, and that he's kind of diminished everything he's done, which was a lot during Ferguson's time?
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't see Ronaldo as the legend anymore. I think
Mhm.
you can't exactly scrape his whole legacy at Man United because what he done in his first tenure was remarkable, but
Yeah.
you can't I can't excuse everything he's done. And
Mhm.
regarding my favourite number 7, I can't get it's Ronaldo anymore. I wouldn't put him in probably the top 10 of my favourite players anymore. But in terms of what Sir Alex, when he was at Man United as the manager, he always used to say, no player is bigger than the manager or the club.
Yeah.
So really, if he was gonna give Ronaldo advice, that should be the advice he gives Ronaldo. No player is bigger than the club or the manager. But we know that Sir Alex loves Ronaldo as his son,
Mhm.
so we don't know if there's gonna be anything different behind closed doors. But realistically, that's what he should be saying.
Yeah, and look at Sir Alex's, encounters throughout the years. I know that Yap Stam was somebody who um, was shipped off quite quickly, even though
Mm.
he was quality player for Man United. And who can forget the big one, which is David Beckham. And the
And Roy Keane was another one who got shipped off as well,
yeah,
eventually.
yeah,
After some
exactly.
time.
Although saying that, Roy Keane is quite outspoken, but in fact, everybody loves him for that. And to be honest, he's a great pundit.
But it just shows like David Beckham. I'd say in that 1999 season, no one touched him in terms of what
Mhm,
he'd done realistically. Yap Stam, I would always say, is one of my favourite centre backs ever to be at Manchester United, and Roy Keane is the best defensive midfielder we've had, plus the best captain we've had. And you look at the players over the years who's been shipped off. Uh,
yeah.
we've never felt like we've been at a loss with them players over the years, so we
Mhm,
shouldn't feel like we should be at a loss with Cristiano Ronaldo either, because realistically, even if nothing ever did come about with this interview, we were still all okay. Is he a solution for Manchester United? No, because he's not a long-term solution. Well, he's going to retire in the next 2 years. 2 years is that aiming for the top two. It's not going to be aiming for titles. Would we win a title again under a 40-year-old striker? No. So
mhm.
I don't think he would have been the answer anyway for Ten Hag's rebuild, and he didn't suit Ten Hag's play anyway.
And I think it's such a shame. It's such a shame because he did do a lot, the
Mhm,
first time round, and I think he's really let himself down. Um, and he was a brilliant player for Man United, but in this
mhm,
second spell, he's just disrupted the harmony from the outside looking in. Um, Moving on to, of course, the players that are here. So
yeah,
there's been, quite a lot of signings, but quality signings under Ten Hag.
mhm,
So one person, Martínez, of course, a World Cup winner
mhm,
with Argentina. You've got Antony, who
mhm,
was signed from Ajax, and of course Casemiro signed from Real Madrid. Of course, there was others as well that come in, but um, Christian Eriksen
yeah,
from Brentford, of course, he had that awful situation in the Euros, which was I was watching that game, and I'm sure you probably was as well, and it
mhm,
was a horrible moment, absolutely horrible moment,
mhm,
and how has he actually come back so strong? Because his inter contract, I understand, had to be cancelled because in Italy the rules are different. If you do have this sort of situation, then you can't actually play in the league.
mhm.
So he's gone to Brentford and he's done a good job there, but he seems to carry that on to Manchester United as well.
Mhm. Originally, before when Inter Milan terminated his contract, he
Hmm.
actually went to Ajax with Ten Hag. He didn't play any games, but Ten Hag worked with him. He trained him
Hmm.
up to be the player he is. He got it under Brentford, and I think it worked under Brentford because you've got a load of the players who he played for the national team in there, a
Yeah,
Danish manager as well. And I think when you've got
very
them
true.
kind of connections, that helps massively because you've still got players in the midfield of Christian Eriksen, who he had for countries such as Norgard.
Hmm.
Norgard's probably not a starting 11 player for Denmark, but he would still be someone that Eriksen would have worked with very, very closely. Damsgaard was another one. I don't know if he was there though at the time, but Damsgaard would have been another if he was there or not. And I think that would have probably helped Eriksen boost his confidence up as well, having some friendly faces around. And I know when he come to Manchester United, um, I think it was more. I think it was more because he had that relationship with Ten Hag. Because even
Hmm.
though, even though that horrific incident happened and it's something you'd never want to see again, um, Eriksen always said that he appreciates Ten Hag because it was him who got him back into football. It was him
Hmm.
who made him stronger again, and that's why he wants to come to Manchester United to work with him properly with him as his manager. And I think knowing that you've already got that special bond with each other, because it is kind of like in a way Eriksen appreciates what Ten Hag has done for him, and Ten Hag would have looked at him closely in training and go, he's terrific here, he's great here, he's great here. So he would, as well as Antony and Martínez, he would have already known what the the positive stuff Eriksen is, the flaws of Eriksen is, and
Hmm.
he would have worked upon that. Um, I think in terms of Eriksen in itself, I think Ten Hag has monitored him very closely. I know his medical took a lot longer than it should have done. I think it took nearly 2 weeks to be completed, his medical, and that's understandable.
Yeah.
It takes him off a little bit earlier now than what he used to, just because I think he needs that little bit more rest, and I would rather him be a bit more set. But it just shows that he is a starting 11 player, and even before Casemiro secured his place at the Manchester United team, I think Eriksen alone changed the midfield, the intensity of it, and I a lot of people thought he was a bit of a replacement for Mata in terms of his humbleness and the way he is with fans and the dressing room kind of support. And even though Mata was a great player, I always think Eriksen is a lot better just because he has that story behind him. He's already seen as a legend in the Premier League from Spurs' point of view of what he's done at Tottenham Hotspur. I think he is a great influence in general with the younger players coming in of Iqbal and Charlie Savage, who will probably make the Premier League debut eventually. And I do like how he is with fans in general. I think there's nothing that you could look at Christian Eriksen and go, he's a bad guy, because I don't think he's a bad guy at all. I think he's absolutely fab. I love Christian Eriksen.
And of course, the other signings as well. Antony, who was signed from Ajax, would have known Ten Hag as well. What's he been like?
I think for me, he's a bit like Marmite with the team with the fan base at the moment. A lot of people love him, but a lot of people are starting to get a bit of a dislike to him. I think for me, he needs to be worked upon massively. You look at his goal rate at Ajax, it's not great, but I suppose you wouldn't expect him to bang in every single game as a winger anyway. It's not
Yeah.
a winger's job is more to, as well as score, is to create, but he didn't really have a good assist record. So we knew that Ten Hag loved him, and we're like, well, whatever Ten Hag wants, I want kind of thing, because we were sick of them kind of commercial signings. So scored in his first 3 Premier League games, breaking records, brilliant. But I think the thing is, he needs a lot of work in terms of he doesn't take any players on. He doesn't really like to cross. When he crosses, the very low crosses what give the possession away. He gives a lot of possession away in general. And I think, especially if you're going to play against the likes of Man City, Liverpool, you can't afford to give balls away at very high up on the pitch, because it will cost you massively. You can't afford not to cross a ball, and you can't afford just to shoot from outside the box as much as it's going to be a pretty goal. Is that favoriting the team? No, it doesn't help the team doing that. So I think he needs to be a little bit less selfless. And I always seem to think that he doesn't cross the ball to certain players. I've seen that when it's Antony, Martial, Rashford from free, he won't pass the ball to any of them unless it was Bruno.
Yeah.
And when Ronaldo was there, he'd always pass the ball to Ronaldo. And I always said, like, why is he only crossing the ball to Ronaldo when Ronaldo was playing in the Europa? Like, why is he only crossing the ball to Ronaldo? Bruno had a much clearer chance. Rashford had a much clearer chance. So why is he passing it to Ronaldo? And it makes me think, is it the Portuguese speaking language where he's got that bit more connections, or is it a bit of a rivalry thinking, I want to have more goals and assists than Rashford and Martial? Is it one of them as well? But you can't afford to be like that if you are wanting your team to succeed.
And of course, Martínez, who is a World Cup winner now with Argentina. He's played pretty much every game for Manchester United. How good has he been at the defence?
Yeah, I think he's been a massive improvement. I think knowing that we have found both him and Varane as a great partnership, Luke Shaw gone in good form. I think that's helped the defence massively. Having a left-footed defender really, really works, because He's great with his tackles, his interceptions. I think you've seen it in the Liverpool game where he managed to keep Salah quiet for the majority of the game,
Yeah.
minus that goal. I know we had that bit of a scrap with Leon Bailey, but I think you want that little
Hmm.
bit of hot-headedness in the squad as well. I think he's definitely got that future material in him.
Hmm.
I can't fault Martínez in any kind of defensive way, and he's very good with his long through balls as well. He can cross from a long range. You've seen it a lot with Martínez and Antony link up, and you've seen it as well with Martínez starting to do it with Rashford now as well. So there's a lot of good qualities about him, and he's still only very young, 24, so he's not even in his prime yet, and he's playing like this. So it makes me happy that hopefully we do keep it in his prime, and he's going to be a lot better because Varane is already in his prime now, and that's another thing what we can be grateful for. We're playing the prime and one player who's going to be in the prime for Manchester United, and having two World Cup players. It's the centre backs. That's something that
Yeah.
you've got to be happy about as well, because I don't think there's any other Premier League team that has two start 11 centre backs as the World Cup, and I think that just shows. I know it's not for club, but for country, it just shows the mentality of both of them.
And I think he's done very, very well from what I've seen. Talking about two English players, so of course Marcus Rashford,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely lovely guy. What he did during the pandemic, is so commendable, and of course something that politicians didn't do. They
Yeah.
didn't have the they didn't actually provide all these hot meals for kids during that time, which was a difficult, horrible spell for people. But also Harry Maguire. So I think it's the polar opposites. I understand Rashford's done really, really well at Man United this season, did really well for England, but Harry Maguire did very well for England, but hasn't particularly performed for Man United. Is there a reason behind it?
I'm I don't think, firstly, I don't think he suits the way Ten Hag wants to move. I think he's a very slow
Hmm.
type of defender. Both Martinez and Varane are very quick. They're very good with their reactions. And I
Hmm.
think the thing is with Maguire, he likes to play on the high line. He likes to go very forward to the point he's probably going to be a striker. That's fine. You can do that as long as you've got the pace to track back. And because he doesn't have the pace, he's leaving either Balasia or Luke Shaw very exposed alongside Varane or Lindelof, whoever's that going to be next to him. And that's just going to create goals. And I think his timings aren't exactly brilliant with his tackles and his fouls. I think we've seen that a lot, though. We even seen it for England against Germany. His reactions are very, very poor, and we can't
Yeah.
afford to have that kind of player in the team who's going to be like that. Which it is a shame because his first two seasons at Man United, they were great. He was, and even when we lost in the Europa League, we said it could have been different if we had Maguire. We don't know why he's come out of form, but we can't afford to carry on keeping him if he's just going to stay that way either. I've not been a massive fan of him in general because I always said Mourinho didn't want him at 20 mil, so why did we sign him for 80
Yeah.
under Nullah? So I think he'd be a lot more suited with a back three team who was plays two defensive midfielders as well. I've seen that he's been linked to Tottenham now, so if he does go to Tottenham in January or the summer, we don't know. But I think I'd be, if I was Tottenham fans, I'd be very worried if there was Eric Dyer and Maguire in the centre back positions. I'd be very scared.
Neither of them are very, very quick, are they?
No.
Of course, moving on to, of course, our game on Tuesday. So we're not in particularly the greatest run of form since coming back from the World Cup. We had the cup game against Newcastle. We got beat at St James's Park. Got beat by Chelsea. The most disappointing of the three is the defeat by Crystal Palace. But before the World Cup, we had two wins in the Carabao Cup against Everton and also in the Premier League. Um, what do you make of the Bournemouth side and what we've done so far this season?
I think for me, in terms of how you played this season, you haven't played particularly bad. As when I first seen your transfer window, because you didn't really make many incomings compared to the newer signing and the new Premier League clubs who's also been promoted. I was thinking
Hmm.
Bournemouth's in massive trouble here. You need to make some signings ASAP, because if you want to stay in the Premier League, you need to invest, because Norwich, they're ones who don't do it and they get relegated every year. West Brom were like that when they was in the Premier League. Fulham used to be like that, so I don't know what's changed about Fulham, but fair play to them. They've made some improved signings, but I was thinking Bournemouth's going to be in trouble, and I think the first couple of games, I think you won your first game of the season, that was against
Yeah.
Aston Villa,
Yes. Yeah.
and then I think a few games in, you got battered by
Yeah. Yeah.
Liverpool. Sorry to mention that, but I think that
I was
was,
there.
oh, I
It
bet
was
that was a,
awful. Oh, it was so painful. Um, so we had, of course, Man City where we got beat 4-0, which, to be honest, was the best of the three performances. Arsenal where we got beat 3-0 at home, 2-0 down in the first 10 minutes. And it only took 6 minutes for Liverpool to go 2-0 up. And yeah, a 9-0 defeat.
yeah. Sorry to mention that point break, but
That's all right, Macy.
um, I think for me though, once you had that Liverpool loss, I think something kind of
Mhm.
clicked that there's something not right there, and you needed to
Yeah.
change. Scott Parker, he hasn't really shown
Mhm.
he is a Premier League manager, both under Bournemouth and Fulham.
Yeah.
So I know he's moved to Club Bruges now, so we get to see if he's really a good manager in top flight football,
Mhm.
because he's terrific in the Championship. But you got the new manager O'Neill, and I think
Yes.
that he has picked up some good performances for you. At the moment, you're in 15th. I think you're where people probably think you would have been, or a little bit higher than where people think you would have been right now. I can't. I think based off your performances and other teams' performances right now, I can't see you as being relegated, just because I think Southampton have been very poor with the lack of investment. Uh, Wolves, I think they need massive improvements.
Mhm.
Uh, Everton are at big, massive risk, especially if they're keeping Frank Lampard. Um, Nottingham Forest, they're another team, but I think when you're losing over 20 players, it's very hard to recoup from that as well, especially being your first Premier League season. But looking at it in general, you've got 16 points so far. Looking at the bottom half of the table, you haven't got the worst goal difference, but
Mhm.
you're only um you're only like 5 points away from being mid-table as well. So that's hopefully not bad if you've got teams that are going to be dropping the points, and you pick. I know you've said. I think you was unlucky in terms of the Newcastle Cup game, just
Yeah.
because I think personally if it didn't have an own goal, it probably would have gone to penalties, because I don't think either team was wanting to score in that game, and to keep Newcastle's attack quiet at St James's Park. I don't think not many teams will be able to do that this season. So
Mhm.
I would still look at that as a positive way. A draw against Fulham, that's not even bad either. You got a win against Leicester, and I think
Mhm.
the thing is that you need to look at the bottom half of the table and get the points from there. I think if you got wins from the top half of the table, great, but that's where you realistically should be aiming the points from. And when I look at the Premier League table, you've had a pretty hard run quite recently as well, in terms of Chelsea. You beat Everton, which is great. I think Leeds were probably very lucky in the day as well. So I think it's just a matter of who comes out the better team, who has the better midfield on the day for me. But that's where realistically I'd be aiming points from.
And of course, we do have our new owner, so we are going to
Yes.
spend a hell of a lot from what it sounds like, in this January window. Do you think, in a couple of years' time, Bournemouth could, be mid-table or even better, if this they get this right?
Good question. There has been some teams where they stay in the Premier League and they do a good thing with it. I think it is possible that you could be a mid-table team with the investment and the ownership as well. But I'd say that's probably in a few years to come. I think right now
Yeah.
you need to concentrate on this season, the second season syndrome, because not a lot of teams. I think when I looked at it from 2008, it's happened to 7 clubs, that second season syndrome. So I think they're the two main important things right now, and everything else can come that little bit later on. And when you're seeing the downfall there of Aston Villa, you're seeing Leeds who are flirting with relegation, same with Everton. It is very possible you can get into mid-table, and Patrick Vieira, if his tactics eventually get found out as well. I don't know. And I think for me, it also depends on the manager as well. Is he good enough to take you into mid-table, or would you need a more of a top tier manager? Because I didn't know too much about O'Neill before he come to Bournemouth. I'm not too aware of his style of play, so I don't know whether he. People used to think, no, they're saying that Eddie Howe he was going to get sacked, and then they'll need a top manager to take them into mid-table, then into European spots, but that's not seeming the case at the moment. So maybe O'Neill could be the exact same. With a bit of investment, he could get you into mid-table, but you never know.
Yeah, and I'm right behind Gary O'Neill. I know some sections of the support aren't, but I think he's done a good job with what he's got, which at the moment is a group of talented youngsters, but quite a lot of inexperience of this division in there. Even though, yes, we were relegated a couple of years back, there is the likes of Jaden Antony, Jordan Zamora, who are quality players, but are effectively trying to find their feet in the Premier League. And I think they've done that to an extent, but it will be interesting to see what happens. How do you think Man United will approach this game? Do you think they'll approach it the same way they have done every game recently? Or do you think a mix of styles? Do you think some players will be rested?
I don't think there'll be any players rested, because the game after yous we're playing in the FA Cup against Everton, and then we've got Charlton in the Carabao Cup. So I think we'll go with our strongest 11, and Ten Hag, as always said, is that he takes every game seriously, no matter who the opponent is. He wants to win every game. He wants to win every trophy possible. I know that's going to be impossible, but that's what he wants to do. He's going to take everything seriously. So I don't think he's going to make. I think there will be just one change for the Wolves game, which will be Rashford in for Garnacho. Apart from that, I can't see any other changes, because I think there'll probably be changes for the FA Cup game against Everton, because both sides are going to probably play a more of a weakened team. But I think that at times this season we've come across as a counter-attacking team, and that's where we probably play our best, when we're counter-attacking. But I think Ten Hag, especially with it being at home, he's going to probably expect more of a dominant performance. So I probably expect more of a possession-based game probably coming into the game against Bournemouth.
Well, I do this with every guest, as you probably know, Maisy. How is this one going to go?
The thing is, Man United hasn't scored many goals this season. I think we'll probably score 2 goals, but I think we could potentially concede one, depending on who is in our centre back position. Martínez is back, but will he be ready for tomorrow? That's the main question. And if that's going to be the case, that's going to be Luke Shaw again playing as a centre back, which I don't mind him playing as a centre back, but I'm not a big fan of players playing out of position unless absolutely needed. But we can't continue to keep playing a fullback as a centre back role. So I think he's gonna eventually get found out. At Bournemouth, I think they can be a tricky team to play against. So I'm gonna go if Martínez plays, I say 2-0. But if Shaw plays as centre back, I'll go 2-1. I don't think many goals are going to be scored.
I think it's the players will have learnt their lesson from the Palace game, which I've got to be honest wasn't particularly very good. It's probably the worst performance under Gary O'Neill. I don't know if we'll score though, because Man United have defensively been very, very good recently. And I'm hoping that you're right, Maisy, and we can get one. But I'm going actually Man United just a 1-0 win. I think we'll probably keep it tight. We do seem to play better against the better sides. Against Spurs, we were 2-0 up. And of course, let's forget the Liverpool, Man City, and Arsenal games because that was all under Scott Parker. I think we have performed well against the better sides that we have come up against, even though we haven't got the results.
Yeah, I think he was unlucky against Chelsea as well, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of criticism, of course, off the back of that game and, having a defeat at Stamford Bridge. But the way I look at it is Chelsea is a free hit. Man United is a free hit, really, for us. And I completely agree. The teams we want to be getting points off are the likes of Forest, Everton, Wolves, those sort of teams. So I think it'll be a 1-0 defeat, unfortunately. But I'm hoping I'm wrong. And believe it or not, when I have predicted us to lose before, we actually won the game. So
we'll just have to see what people say later on for my
reverse
chat.
psychology. Well, I predicted us to beat Crystal Palace, and it was like, actually, So hopefully, the reverse psychology. I'm going for a defeat, and maybe, just maybe, Maisy.
Fingers crossed. I think I haven't betted against United since the Liverpool game because I betted. I can't remember if I betted us to lose against City actually, but I predicted us to lose against Liverpool 5-0, and I was kind of happy that wasn't the case. But one of my friends who comes onto my channel always bets United to lose, and every time he does, we win or draw. So we'll just have to see what he says later.
They just saved all those goals for us, didn't they? Liverpool.
Yeah, they did, but they took their anger out on news, which isn't fair. But they've been poor since.
Yeah, definitely. Before you go, do tell us a little bit more about where we can find Devils United, and tell us about all your Twitter handles and everything else.
Thank you for having me on, Craig. It's been a great chat with you. My YouTube channel is Devils United. I do Manchester United content on there for both men and the women's football. I got a Twitter handle which is at 2_ MUFC Maze. Go and check Craig out, his channel, and go and give it a subscribe. Thank you very, very much, Craig, for having me on.
No problem at all, Maisy, and thank you so much, and a pleasure to have you on. And Maisie's channel is all in the description below, and it's also tagged in the title as well. So please do give Maisy a subscription and let us know what you think. But Maisy, again, pleasure to have you back on the show. Hopefully, we'll be doing a free-for-all show at some point this week. So it'd be great to have you on for that as well. But all the very, very best, of course, after Tuesday.
Yeah, same to you, Craig. Good luck.
And thank you, everybody, for joining us on this preview show. Please remember to hit the like, the subscribe, the bell button below to be alerted to any new videos we do here at the Cherries in all departments. Please do also remember to check out Maisie's channel and also check out our previous shows. We've had Eddie Mitchell on, we've had of course, Trevor Watkins, Steve Fletcher, Steve Cook, lots and lots of special guests, of course, Harry as well. Who can forget Harry? We was also on Talk TV yesterday, so please do check that out as well. And if you want to find out more about Bill Foley and also the team around him, please check out our interviews with Mark McAdam and Kieran Maguire, who go into the financials, what it was like to speak to Bill himself, and the exciting times that are going to be at Dean Court. We will have a preview show, of course, for the Burnley game, which is coming up very soon. So please keep your eyes peeled and hit that bell because you'll be alerted when it's up anyway. But until then, up the cherries, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you for joining us.